Hello, my name is Rajiv, and today I'm going to show you how you can migrate your existing distributed availability group environment to a newer version of SQL Server. In my scenario, I have Windows Server 2016 and SQL Server 2016 environment. Let me show you that. So I have a location Delhi, and I have two SQL servers at this location, and the subnet is 10.10.1.x, and the domain is contoso.com, and the availability group name is AG1. So these two servers are part of a Windows cluster called WFSC1. Now, my another set of servers are in different location called Mumbai, and the subnet is 10.20.1.x, and availability group is called AG2, and the domain name is mycorp. And these two servers are part of a different cluster, which is called WFSC2. So in my current environment or existing environment, I have distributed availability group configured between Delhi and Mumbai location. So this is my global primary, and this is my primary forwarder. So the data flows like this for availability groups and distributed availability groups. My requirement is to upgrade my SQL environment with minimal downtime. So what I'll do is I'll do a side by side upgrade of SQL environment. My target is Windows 2025 and SQL 2022. So what I'll do is I'll create same set of servers in at Delhi location. So as you can see, two servers in Delhi. The subnet is 10.50.1.x, and the domain is different, core.com. Availability group is called AG3, and these two servers are part of a Windows cluster called WFSC3. And at Mumbai location, I will create similar servers, but SQL 2022. The domain name is SQLcert.com. These two servers are part of Windows cluster called WFSC4, and the subnet is 10.60.1.x. So my primary agenda is to migrate the databases from 2016 to 2022 with minimal or less downtime. In my current environment, I have my read transactions going to the secondary replica, and only the transaction which is writing to the database goes to my global primary. So I want a similar thing over here over here as well. First, we have to take the backups of the database, and restore the backups over here, and over here. And we will leave these databases in recovery. Yeah. So that's step one. The backup is restored and left in no recovery. Now the second step would be to configure the distributed availability group from this global primary, right? And this one is primary forwarder, right? This sends data to this sends data to this. So we will configure a distributed availability group between 2016 and 2022, and this will send data to this, and this server will become our primary forwarder. And this primary forwarder will send the transaction logs to this server. Okay? But now we have left the servers which are in Mumbai. And at the time of cutover, we want the exact environment as we have in 2016. So what we'll do is we will configure another distributed availability group between 2022 and 2022. So this is your primary forwarder, right? This is sending data to this. And after configuring the distributed availability group, this will start sending data to this. And this will also become the primary forwarder. and this will start sending data to this, right? So this is how your data is flowing. So this is your global primary, right? This is your primary forwarder. This one is sending data over here as well, and to 2022 as well. So this is your, data flowing. This is how your data is flowing. Okay. Once we are at the date of cutover, we will make sure all the apps, right, cannot connect to our global primary, and no data modification or DML. Okay. We have to ensure we don't have such things going on at the time of cutover. So once we are sure everything is stopped connecting to this global primary and no further changes are made, and we will run some scripts to find out if all the transactions are delivered. And once we are sure, we will fail over this availability group to 2022 and drop this availability group from 2022 and 2016. We will have the exact environment of 2016, but running all the databases on 2022. So this will be your new environment or upgraded environment. And now all your apps can start connecting to 2022 servers. This will be your global primary, and this is your primary forwarder. So this one will send data over here, and this one will send data to primary forwarder, and primary forwarder will send data to all the secondaries. So this is how you can do migration of your existing distributed availability groups using side-by-side approach. So in the demo, this will be our environment on which we will be working on. So I have already configured distributed availability group on 2016 servers. I have already created a video showing how to configure distributed availability group in two different domains. So if you don't know or haven't watched that video, I would suggest you first watch that video and then come back to this one. So in our test environment, I have already configured this. I have already built these servers, right? As you can see, I have already configured the availability groups. I have already configured the domains. I do have primary, I do have secondary. I do have primary and secondary over here. The subnet is totally different. And both are, all servers are, like these servers are part of a different cluster. These servers are part of different cluster, right? But we haven't configured distributed availability group on 2022 servers yet. Yeah. So from this point, we will our demo will start. So if you have any questions, any doubt, I highly recommend you go back and watch the video for 2016, where I configured distributed availability groups between two different domains. And yes, one more thing, while configuring these servers, the 2016 ones, we used certificates, certs, and logins. Yeah. So same thing we are going to use over here as well, because all servers are in different domain. For sending data using HADR endpoint, SQL Server has to authenticate itself, and without authentication, it won't be able to send the data. So for that, we are using certificate logins. So we will use the same certificates and logins we used in 2016 environment. Okay. So let's jump on to our demo. Let me show you the 2016 environment first. So I have a database called AG Test 2016 or AG Test SQL 16. And I have availability group configured over here, which is a normal AG, which has AG Test SQL 16 part of it. The secondary replica for this is WinSQL 16-2 server, and this is synchronized, everything green. Now I have a distributed availability group called dist AG, and this dist AG is sending the data for this database to my another set of SQL servers, which is 2016. So if I expand this and this and show you the availability group, so this is my secondary, and this is my primary or primary forwarder at the moment. Yeah, so as you can see, AG is equal 16 gr2-1. So this one is my primary replica. So to make things easier, I'm going to fail over this availability group or primary forwarder from gr2 to gr2-1. Okay, so we will keep our global primary and primary forwarders on -1 servers just to make things easier. Synchronized gr2-1. So I'm basically filling our primary forwarder for the distributed availability group from gr2-2 to gr2-1. So if I refresh this, we should have our distributed availability group over here. Let's do some testing before we start the actual demo. So currently I have 4 rows in it. Well, I'm going to add this row, but I'm on this server, right? So let's see. This is our secondary replica on distributed availability group. We'll select star over here. So as you can see, 4 rows over here. Now let's insert. Test is here and test is here. That means data is flowing from this to gr2-1 and from gr2-1 to gr2-2. So existing 2016 distributed availability group is already working as expected. And if you don't know how to configure distributed availability group between two different domains, do watch my another video where I have shown how I have configured this environment and how I have configured distributed availability groups between two different environments or domains. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to, provide the certificate or restore the certificate on our 2022 estate. So we will restore the certificate, we will create a login, and we will bind the certificate with the HADR endpoint and grant connect on endpoint to our DAG login. And then we will follow this same thing on all our 2022 replicas. Okay. So let's run this command. So I am on 2022-1 server. Now I will copy this, run on all of my replicas of 2022 so that my 2016 server can communicate with 2022 servers. That's done. On gr2-1, that's also done. New query. Now my 2016 or 2022 environment can talk with each other using the certificates. Okay. So now I'm going to take the backup of my database on global primary. So backup database, this to disk. Okay. So I'm taking this backup. Since my database is already synchronized in 2016 state, I don't have to worry about it, but I have to restore this backup on 2022 state. So I have to, take this, copy this backup to 2022 servers. Going to copy my backup. This is the one. Let me delete some old backups. Yeah. So this is the backup that I need to copy to 2022 servers. So my first server is win 25 SQL 22 dash 1 C dollar. Okay, so I am at this server win25 SQL 22 dash 1. So I'll copy this file over here. Then next server is 2025 dash 2. Win 2025 win SQL 22 dash 2. What I'm doing wrong. Win 2025. Win 2025. Yeah. Okay, it's taking time, but yeah, we are reaching out. Okay. Now next server is Win 25 SQL 22. Win 25 SQL 22 GR2 dash 1. Delete the old backup from my previous testing. Yeah. Now the last server is GR2 dash 2. Delete the old backup. And yeah. Okay, so now we have to restore the database. So first time what I'll do is reuse the GUI. And then I'll select the backup file, which is on C drive. That's my backup file. Okay. I need to, because we are restoring it from 2016 to 2022, so the path will be a bit different. I believe this should do it. 16 is for 2022, right? And we will do no recovery and script. So we are on Win25 SQL 2022. Let's restore this database. Yeah. Let's do the same on other server. So as you can see, database is restored on 22-1. Now let's do the same on 22-2. Execute. Let's verify. Yeah. Now let's do the same thing on here. Our group 2 server. Let's refresh. Cool. And that's our last server. And here. So we do have, the database is restored and left in restoring state. Okay. So now what we'll do is we will configure the distributed availability group between 2016 global primary and 2022. So we will go to our global primary, which is 2016 server, and then I will go by Open session to here. So let's verify few things first. So let's verify the availability group's name. So 2016, I have availability group called AG equals 16-GR1. AG16 AG equals 16-GR1. That's right. Equals 16-GR1 is the listener name. That is also right. So now come back to 2022. So that's a blank availability group. And name of the availability group AG equals 22-GR1. AG equal 22-GR1. Listener name is SQL22gr1.core.com. As you can see, there is no database in this availability group, and that's the listener name. So we will copy this command, we will paste it, we will say alter availability group and join. That's my primary forwarder for 2022. And this is my global primary. The name of the distributed availability group will be dist AG2022. Dist AG2022. Okay. So now we are going to configure distributed availability group between 2016 and 2022 servers. Okay. So let's execute this command. Completed successfully. Let's go to 2016 and verify. Yeah, we do have distributed availability group over here. Let's come to 2022 one. Remember, we haven't executed any command on 2021 yet. Okay. Okay. So there is no distributed availability group because we haven't executed the command yet. So on 2022-1 server, I'm going to execute this. And let's refresh. So if I show the dashboard now, you will see it's not synchronizing. Right? Because we have to run another command. We have to add this, we have to tell this database to be part of distributed availability group. And now you can see it is synchronized on 2022 1, but on the secondary replica, which is 2022-2, it is still saying not synchronizing. Why? Because on the secondary replica, we have to manually go to the availability group and join the database manually to the availability group. Okay, let's refresh. Now it's instead of not synchronizing, it says synchronizing. Okay, so refresh here, expand, synchronizing, and in recovery. Same thing over here, but it is synchronized and in recovery. Okay, if I go to the properties of the availability group and see the readable secondary is set to yes, but still I cannot read the database. Why? There's a reason for that. And let me show you. Because the version of the database is 852 over here, which is for 2016. And if I go to 2022 and run the same command, the database version is still 852 on 2022. That's the reason the database shows in recovery. But when we fail over the database from 2016 distributed availability group to 2022, the database will upgrade automatically to version 957, and that time it will become accessible. Okay. So far we have configured distributed availability group between 2016 and 2022. Now the task is to configure the distributed availability group between 2022 and other set of 2022 servers. So I'm going to open a session. So we have to configure distributed availability group between 22-1 and 22gr2-1. Now there's a catch. So let's see what we have got about availability groups. So I have availability group already created. It's a blank availability group on my gr2-1 server, and the listener name is SQL22 gr2 list. Over here, we have distributed availability group between 2016 and 2022. Now we have to create distributed availability group between 2022 and 2022. Okay, so let's see some of the properties for the availability group we have on our primary forwarder for 2022. So the name is AG-SQL22-GR1, AG-SQL22-GR1, and the listener name is SQL22-GR1. The name of the domain is core. So that's 22-1 server environment. Okay. Now the second environment is this one, AG-SQL22-GR2, AG-SQL22-GR2, and the listener name is SQL22-GR2 list, SQLServer.com. So now we are going to create a distributed availability group here on this. And if I refresh and expand the availability group, you won't see this availability group, which is called this AG2022GR2. Strange, but the command completed successfully. Okay, let's check something. Let's check if we have got anything over here. No, nothing. Why? Because I just created a availability group, distributed availability group on here, but I haven't added this server or this set of server to the availability group which I created. Let's give it a try. So I executed this command, alter availability group, added this server to the availability group which we are not able to see. Let me run another command to tell that this database should be part of dist AG2022GR2, and I'm running this command on GR2-1. So that ran successfully. That's surprising. Expand. Okay, I can see my distributed availability group over here. Earlier, if you remember, this database, this was empty. It was blank. But now this database is added over here. So same as we did the step earlier, we will come over here on the secondary replica, join this database to availability group. And if I see the dashboard, you will see on GR2-1, it says synchronized, and GR2-2 synchronizing, same as when we configured the distributed availability group between 2016 and 2022. Now let's refresh and come back here and see if we can see our distributed availability group which we just created, and no, it's not here. It doesn't exist. It doesn't show in the GUI. But if I refresh over here, it shows the distributed availability group here. That's strange. But still, it is working. From 2016-1, which is our global primary, it is sending data to 2022-1, which is our primary forwarder. And then this primary forwarder is sending data to GR2-1, which is another primary forwarder on 2022. Now, to check if it's working, what we'll do is we'll go to the database, which is the read-writable copy of the database on 2016, and you can see this value is there. So I will delete from test where name equals to test. But the problem is, even if I delete it, yeah, the databases on 2022 site is in restoring state, in recovery state, not in restoring, but in recovery. See? So your data is flowing, definitely, right? So when we took the backup, this value was there, right? Now let's delete this value and let's see if 2016 server is synchronized and seeing and the value is deleted from here. Okay. Now we assume that it's cut over time, cut over date, and now we have to cut over the databases from 2016 to 2022. So what I'll do is I will open a session with 2016 and 2021. The name of the availability group was dist AG 2022 GR2, right? No. We don't have to touch this one. We have to touch the other availability group, and the name was dist AG 2022. Yeah, let's verify that. So dist AG 2022, and still the GR2 is not visible. Okay, so this one is 2016. This one is 2022. This one is 2016. So we have to tell that dist AG2022, okay, will fail over. But for that, we have to tell that distributed availability group dist AG2022 on 2016, that availability group will become secondary on 2016. Okay, I'm not in master. And on 2022, I will tell that fail over the distributed availability group called dist AG2022 from 2016 to 2022. Okay. So if I currently here you can see dist AG2022, and if I refresh this one as well. Now when we failed over the availability group, I can see dist AG2022 GR2, which I created earlier, but it was not visible. Okay. So let's refresh this. So now the failover is done from 2016 to 2022. Let's see the state of the database. I told you there will be a failover of the database, when database will become online on 2022, the version of the database will automatically be upgraded from 852 to the 2016 number, whatever version number is it is. So let's see that. And meanwhile, what I'll do is I will drop the availability group, which is dist AG2022 between 2016 and 2022, because now we no longer need it. Okay, so you can see it is in synchronized state. So let's drop the availability group first. Drop availability group on 2016 first, and then on 2022. Let's refresh. So as you can see, the database is synchronized. Now let's refresh the database on 2022 estate. We will come back to 2016 in a bit. Okay, so 2022-1 is synchronized, still recovering. Sorry, it says synchronized, and synchronized. Okay, so let's see the version on 2022. Let star command star clone sys this 957 for AG test equals 16. Okay, so this will be the same on all the 2022 replicas. So let's see what's the status on the dashboard. So it says synchronized. Okay. So these two servers are good. Now let's verify the same on the distributed availability group. And so it's synchronized. It says synchronized. Okay. As you can see, it is synchronized as well. Now what we'll do is we will, so if you remember, we deleted the row which had test in it, right? And we did not took any transaction log backup or restored it manually, right? So if the distributed availability group was working as expected and was able to deliver the transaction logs, then we should not see that row over here. See, it's not available. Okay, now let's insert into test values cutover. Okay, and cutover is here. So that means this is our global primary now. This is our primary forwarder, and the distributed availability group between this and this server is working as expected. Now let's get back to 2016 and see what's the status of this server and the database on 2016. So you can see it is in not synchronizing state. So what you can do, you can go to availability group and resume data movement. Click OK. And if you refresh, so this one is, let's see about the availability group. And look for the, okay, it says synchronize. It says database test stage is not accessible. Something strange happened over here. It says synchronized, but somehow, let me do the failover. To 2. Master database, okay. Let's failover again. Next, connect. Over here, it should be master. Next, finish. Okay. So this has become secondary, and this has become the primary. So we have distributed availability group over here. Let's see if we can. So it says not synchronizing. Synchronizing. Let's do a failover or a failback. Yeah. Let's refresh. Okay, that's green. Let's refresh. That is also green. And yeah, it's green. So maybe we just have to, wait for some time, and or you can do a failover, failback. So now this 2016 has a different set of, has its own set of copy for this database, and 2022 server has its own set of copy for its 2016 database, which was restored from backups, and we migrated from 2016. So this is how you can do a side-by-side migration of your existing distributed availability groups from older version to newer version of SQL Server. If you find this video useful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel and share this video in your DB group. And thanks for watching.